on a bridge in Selma, Alabama. Black and white, Catholic and Christian and Jewish people decided to take on Jim Crow in one of his most vicious forms, that was denial of voting rights. They were beaten until they were beaten back, but they were not beaten down. And instead of the blood causing them to run, their blood inspired other people to run to Selma. They marched in March, and by the summer, Congress was voting on a Voting Rights Act. If they marched then, if they fought then, if they pushed the nation forward then, we must resist the nation going backwards now.
And the reason I say that is because, my friends, everything they won on that bridge is under attack.
That's right. We stand under the umbrella of an ever-expanding coalition that beats many drums of resistance with many sounds of reconstruction. But we beat them in rhythm together.
And right here, we're getting ready to march and protest again and litigate again and raise our dissent again. When we remember the love that is always at the heart of justice, our Fusion Coalition will gather in Raleigh for another mass moral march and People's Assembly. Our agenda is clear. Our partner organizations are more committed than ever.
When this moral fusion coalition comes together, we break many kinds of bread. It matters not whether we break cornbread or Wonder Bread, fry bread, or tortillas. It matters not whether we break communion wafers, matzo balls, pita bread, or sourdough. What matters most is that we break bread together, because the bread we share strengthens the arms that beat the drum of resistance and the legs that push the rock of reconstruction.
And we're coming back to Raleigh in the dead of winter to say we will still be here. Together, together, together. As prisoners of hope, we're not going to give up.
We started coming here years ago, and we've been coming here ever since because some powers are seeking to build cages around us. They are building cages around our educational systems that we will resist. Cages around our healthcare systems that we will resist. Cages around immigration that we will resist. Cages around women's rights that we will resist. Cages around our LGBTQ rights that we will resist. Cages around labor unions that we will resist.
The guy in the White House is a mortal, not a god. The members of the General Assembly are mortals and not God. The members of the Congress, they are mortals, not God. Bowing down is not an option. We will stand up again, we will march again, we will preach again, we will organize again. We are black, we are white, we are Latino, we are Native American, we are Democrat, we are Republican, we are independent, we are people of faith, we are people not of faith, we are natives and immigrants, we are business leaders and workers and unemployed, we are doctors and the uninsured, we are gay, we are straight, we are students, we are parents, we are retirees. We are North Carolina. We are America. And we're here and we ain't going nowhere.
We might be slow, but we're here. Yeah. As we are every year, we are here with a message that we bring to you. And today our message is directed at those sitting in the halls of power, abusing the offices that they were given to oppress all of us who aren't privileged enough to be sharing their seats today. So when you hear us sing and say you, we're not talking to you folks. We are talking to those people who have usurped the right to tell us how we are going to be governed and how we're going to be able to live our lives. So this was a song that came from our recent experiences and our recent sentiments, and we need you to listen carefully to what we have to say. By the way, you all look beautiful. We were angry when you raised all those taxes on the poor. We were outraged when you authorized those pipelines. But you'll really hear us roar if you start another war. We're here to tell you that now you pissed off Grandma. Our elections are a sham, and our prisons a disgrace, and our schools and children cry out for attention. Infrastructure's gone to pot, and our kids are getting shot. You've ignored us, and now you've pissed off Grandma. Social Security's in danger, and our Medicare is too. And folks are dying every day for lack of health care. Workers need a living wage, so for justice we will rage. We're on the march now because you pissed off Grandma. Well, you want to build a wall, but there's no wall that's so tall that it can keep out truth and justice and compassion. So we'll keep on singing strong and unite to right these wrongs. We'll vote you out, 'cause you really pissed off Grandma.
Let's give it up for the Raging Granny. At this time, we are going to ask Gamil Krenzler to come with Raina Lee from the North Carolina Poor People's Campaign.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First, I want to say I appreciate you all coming out. I know it's cold, so we'll make this quick. But firstly, I want to say my name is Gamil Krenzler. I am 22 years old. I go to the illustrious and amazing school of North Carolina Central University. There you go, shout out. But today we're talking about voting. And I want to inform everybody, in this upcoming election of 2020, over 300,000 youth of the age 18 through 19 are going to be eligible to vote. So with that said, our job is to bring those voters out. The importance of this is, we all here are standing and we talk about change. But for change to happen, we need to take it by force. So, when I say this, I want everybody to understand that the only way we can win this upcoming election to cause changes to get our young people to vote. So that means talking to your kid, that means talking to your best friend, that means talking to your cousin, your brother, your sister. But the moment we start doing that is the moment we can start causing true change. And I want to tell you guys a secret. Whenever people who are oppressed in America or anywhere in history, when they get together and decide to work together and start causing change, it always is successful. So with that said, when we vote, we win.
My name is Raina Lee. I'm 18 years old and I'm a second-generation Korean American. Today we are here not simply to occupy space, not simply to shout meaninglessly into the air, but rather to bask in the full glory of our presence, to reaffirm to ourselves that our masses, our bodies, our collective power have worth and that we are enough just as we are. We are not at home, defeated and cynical about the present conditions that afflict this nation. What does hope look like? Hope looks like hundreds of thousands marching on Jones Street, a capital street not meant for the poor. What does hope look like? Hope looks like the awakening of a nation, the realization that poor is not a bad word, because poverty is not a reflection of character in people, but a reflection of character in the systems that compose this nation. What does hope look like? Hope looks like masses of young people seeing beyond the limits of the previous generation, seeing beyond what is, asking ourselves, what if? What does hope look like? Hope looks like 300,000 young folks between the ages of 18 and 19 being eligible to vote in 2020. What does hope look like? Hope looks like us.
Hi, my name's Noah Ambrose, and I'm a student at UNC Greensboro now, but 3 years ago, I sat in a building right down the street called the NCGA, and I spoke with lawmakers in there demanding the repeal of the sinister House Bill 2. One such lawmaker, when I challenged him, told me, "Don't be restless." He said, "Change comes slow, and it would be immature to think that we could get what we wanted, full equality, overnight." And I said, "Why not?" Because I am restless, and I've been restless. I'm restless because transgender people are killed nearly every day all across the world. I'm restless because I cannot walk down the street of my hometown holding the hand of the person I love without threat of possible violence. I'm restless because my father, one of the most hardworking people that I know, does not get paid enough as a public school teacher here in North Carolina. I'm restless to the fact that we will spend trillions of dollars on endless wars, wars that my mother will be sent overseas to fight in, and yet somehow, back here at home, healthcare is not a guaranteed human right. It's so easy nowadays to look out into the world and only see hurt, and there's a lot of it. It's so easy to say, well, my vote doesn't matter, and that the politics now are polarizing. But we're not here to do the easy thing now, are we? We're here to do the moral thing. Because if your vote didn't matter, then voter suppression wouldn't exist, right? Now, voter suppression exists because the forces at B are trying to take away our voices. Yes, they are. And let me tell you something about democracy, because don't get it confused. Democracy is not a spectator sport. That's right. Democracy is a muscle, and we must and will exercise it if we want to save our democracy. Yes! Because today is not about February the 8th. Today, folks, is about November the 3rd. So join me in committing to continue being restless and to flex that muscle in November. Forward together.
Not one step back!
All right, we can make some noise for that. Because we know that when we look throughout our civil rights movement, there was young folks who was in the forefront. As we celebrate the 60th anniversary of the SNCC that was founded right next door, I know we can make some noise for our young folks. All right, so we're going to hear from John Russell at this point. John, if you're here, make your way to the stage, please. All right, let's make some noise for him.
How y'all doing today? My name is John. I came all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm here with Positive One and all my Genius campaign. How you doing? All right, I'm here to tackle a real strong political topic of mine. I had 5 friends last year that was killed to gun violence. Jesus. And it's a real strong song of mine that's dedicated to my heart. So right now, if you have a loved one that has been killed by violence or anything, a loved one that you have, just put a flashlight up in the air for them, or if we can wave our hands side to side when the song drops, that'd be fine. I said, everyone hand up for me one time. Hey, wave them side to side like this. Yeah. Yeah. Look, these long days and long nights come with consequences. I've been thugging hard my whole life, don't need no co-defendant. Yeah. Really wicked, ain't had no pot to piss in. Look, I'm steady living out my dreams, ain't got no time to rush. Last night, stand for the crowd with 5,000 plus. I was just living in the moment, trying to soak it up. I'm not too far behind, one day they gon' be screaming for us. Let it be known when P1 is in the building. Feelings I got none, killer I'm not one, but don't make me pop, son. Wait, you back on track. I seen a lot of people talk, but they just keep it on wax. I seen a lot of people fall, we ain't gon' get into that. Them people shot up at your homie, you ain't even shoot back. You the urban definition of a homie who lack. What's the point of even having a strap? Look, I seen a lot of people fall, we ain't gon' get into that. The people shot up at your homie, you ain't even shoot back. And you the urban definition of a homie who lack. What's the point of even having a strap? Hands up! Look, these long days and long nights come with consequences. I've been thugging hard my whole life, don't need no co-defendant. Had to find a way to get up. Help out the kissing every time I think about my brother. Swear to God I miss him. Long days and long nights come with consequences. I've been thugging hard my whole life, don't need no co-defendant. Every time a way to get a bucket. And I'm about to listen every time I think about my brother. Swear to God I miss him. Raleigh, North Carolina, make some noise for yourself right now. Yeah. Rest in peace, Ibn. Rest in peace, Chris. Rest in peace, Newbie. Rest in peace, Alice. All my loved ones, man. I thank y'all so much. Talk to me. Look. And every time I wake up, I'm trying to get my cake up. Observe while progressing. Never really say much. Star like KD. Never taking no pay cut. Too dominant. Pretty obvious. I still don't say much. Oh well. They really bragging like they really have it. P1 that be the fashion. I play the game. Y'all know my name. But I ain't talking about no man and causing havoc. My mob deep. I keep a prodigy on the side of me. I'm writing, don't bother me. Tap into to hire me. Nobody can fire me. Created my own lane. No college like King James. I'm still chasing rings, man. Same old. We gotta change the narrative. Tired of the same old script. We gotta change the narrative. Tired of the same old script. One more time, hands up. Yeah, these long days and long nights. I've been thugging hard my whole life. Had to find a way to get a bucket. Every time I think about my brother. These long days and long nights come with consequences. I've been thugging hard my whole life. Don't need no co-defendant. Had to find a way to get a bucket. No partner. Every time I think about my brother. So God I miss him. Yeah, Raleigh, North Carolina, make some noise. I go by the name of YNM John Doe on all social media platforms. Crack the code out right now. Thank y'all so much.
Let's give it up for John Russell. Let's give it up for Tommy D. Hayes, the Peace Partners.
Come through for the trans folks. No sir, no ma'am, just Tommy. Good morning. I'm Tommy and I'm a member of About Face. A few weeks ago marked 15 years since I returned home from war. It wasn't a freedom mission as named. It was a mission to terrorize and oppress. I was 17 and poor when I joined, but how could I convey innocence with an assault rifle in my hands? I didn't delude myself. I've operationalized my guilt and shame into something else, and I'm honored to share this space with y'all. Thank you for being here. Right now, billions in war profit pad the accounts of elected officials of both parties. From the top down, corporations are making billions. Brown people from oppressed countries are sent as contractors. I don't know how they arrived or their pay, but I developed this critical awareness while deployed, which led me into organizing. I met vets like Brittany DeBarros, Whitney Barranco, and Amber Mathwig, who staged righteous dissent against militarization. They're badass women, members of About Face, and part of the reason I joined that organization. We believe in a future where war does not exist. And when I say no war on Iran, I'm saying no to the entire military-industrial complex. I'm saying no to prisons, to jails, and detention centers. I'm saying not one more of our loved ones taken by police and ICE. I'm saying no to capitalism's war machines. But I'm also saying yes. I'm saying yes to an end of carceral systems. I'm saying yes to radical change and transformation. I'm saying yes to an end of all systems of oppression. And my hope is that our message reaches those readying for deployment, that it reaches our neighbors who are not here, and most of all, that it reaches the people of Iran and Iraq, that they will know they are seen, heard, and felt, and that we're in solidarity with them. Together, collectively, we say no to all war profiteers. Thank you so much.
Let's give it up for Tommy one more time. Forward together. Oh, I know it's cold, but we can do better than that. Forward together.
Not one step back.
Forward together.
Not one step back.
At this time, we're going to ask Reverend Nelson Johnson with the Below Community Center come at this time.
Peace, unity, justice, and freedom. We are gathered here today in this season of deep crisis, appalling injustice, growing poverty are being normalized. Lies and falsehood abound. There is deep suffering in the land. But we come today to affirm that we are elders. Let me hear the elders say elders.
And we come as youth. Can I hear the youth say youth?
Youth.
We are determined to build the deepest, broadest, most respectful and enduring unity between elders and youth that North Carolina has ever seen.
Together, elder, youth. Youth, elder. Say it with me. Elder, youth. Youth, elder. Elder, youth. Youth, elder. We will walk together. We will work together. We will fight for justice together, and we will win together. Youth, elder, elder, youth. Youth, elder, elder, youth.
We have come today to symbolize sharing the light, but not only sharing the light, but also lifting up the light so that all can see and be inspired by our history and our determination. We will be free.
Youth, elder, elder, youth. Youth, elder, elder, youth. We cannot win without being attached to that universal spirit that defines and lifts up all of us. Elder Broom, would you come and lead us in a word of sacred reflection?
Let us all grab a hand because we're doing this together. Across ethnicities, across economic lines, across faiths, we're all in this together. We pause in quiet reflection with our heads bowed to offer this prayer for a peaceful world. Eternal God, creator of the universe, great and wonderful are your works. Wondrous are your ways. Thank you for the many splendid variety of your creation. Thank you for the many ways we affirm your presence and purpose and the freedom to do so. Forgive our violation of your creation. Forgive our violence towards one another. We stand in awe and gratitude for your persistent love for each and all of your children, Christian, Jew, Muslim, as well as others with other faiths. Grant to all and our leaders attributes of the strong, mutual respect in words and deeds, restraint in the exercise of evil power, and increase the will for peace with justice for all. Eternal God, creator of the universe, we pause in quiet reflection to offer this prayer for a peaceful world. In our individual and personal ways, we call upon the Holy One who sustains our lives and who inspires us to live with compassion and kindness and peace. We ask for daily guidance in all of our personal relationships, in our work, in our homes, in our play, in our community involvement, that we might model the possibilities of peace in everything we say and in everything we do. We pray for wisdom and compassion within the hearts and minds of all world leaders who have the power and the responsibility of making decisions that impact the presence of peace. We pray for courage, dedication, and integrity within the spirits of all those who work for peace around the world. We pray for all those who harbor thoughts and feelings of hatred, violence, and greed, that their hearts and minds and souls will be transformed into your likeness of compassion and kindness. We are thankful for your presence within our lives and ask for your blessing as we try to live peaceful lives and seek ways for our people to live in harmony and peace. Forward together!
Not one step back!
Amen.
Beloved, we will now use one torch carried for years by the elders to light another torch that will be carried for years by the youth. We proclaim today that no one will pit us against each other. That's right. We need youth all over this land to infuse the movement with great energy, imagination, and determination. We need elders who have been scarred in the long journey to freedom to begin to continue to demonstrate that we ain't nowhere tired yet. And so we will walk together, talk together, work together, and we will win together. Youth, elder, elder, youth. Youth, elder, elder, youth. Youth, elder, elder, youth. I want to ask Reverend Brown to please come to the stage as the eldermost minister, perhaps, among us. Is he here? Let's get another elder minister, wherever you are, come on up, because you've been trained by the movement. Reverend Spearman, that includes you, or somebody you designate.
Reverend Deborah Hopkins, the pastor of Essentials for Life Ministries in Charlotte, North Carolina. Elders, 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 we will not be silent. We will continue to fight. And you know something? We will win.
And after that, we will hear briefly from two youth who have not been designated, but who will designate themselves and come forward.
I'm here because it matters that we show up. It matters that we speak our heart and follow the spirit that binds us all together. We are together today, and we have showed up, and we are moving forward together. Thank you for coming.
Seeing everyone here gathered today for one united common cause, aware of the fact that the country, the state of it that we are in today is doing everything it can to silence voices, to keep people from being united. It means so much that we remember not only who we are as individuals, but who we are as a community, who we are as a country. That's right. What this country is supposed to stand for. the democracy that we have been promised. Thank you.
Beloved, I'm so grateful to be here today, and I guess I'm at that age now where I would be called the senior elder. I'm so grateful to be around all of these energetic young people who understand the importance of our standing tall, that others might be privileged to sit and recognize their liberties and rights. I thank God for all of the young people, for the elders who recognize that together we will fight and we will win. We give God the glory for all he is doing this day. And I pray that everyone today will look around you and embrace the youth that are near you, that are the ones who are really fighting this battle as we continue to lift them. So we thank God for our youth. We thank God for these who have stood today and for those who will stand tomorrow. God bless you.
Just want to say my name is Nikki, and I'm up here to speak for the First People, for the indigenous people. Thank you. My father is the presiding elder of the Métis tribe, and that is an organization that recognizes the Union of Tribes. I don't know if you all know, the United States of America required that all indigenous people only have one tribe, which isn't true. We're a mixed tribe. So my father is both the Eastern Band Cherokee. Many of you all know our reservation in Cherokee, but he is Métis. That means he has African American. He has so many other things, and he became a presiding elder in the Métis tribe. And my father is teaching me the ways. I am now coming into my own eldership. And I want to just sing a song that my mama Carlota taught me. It is the Cherokee morning song. Many of you may know it. We have some beautiful women who sang it all over the world. And if you just, it is just basically to our Creator to say thank you for the morning, and thank you and pass this day in beauty. And just follow me. Wendeya-ho, Wendeya-ho, Wendeya, Wendeya, oh, ho, 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 hey-a-ho, hey-a-ho, ya. And you all know we usually drum, both us Africans and natives, so somebody can get a beat. Give me a beat, and here we go. Wendeya-ho, Wendeya-ho, Wendeya, Wendeya, oh, 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 hey-a-ho, hey-a-ho, ya. Remember, environmental justice is people justice. The Eastern Cherokee, we believe that our ancestors are in the trees. The tree people were here before us. This cutting of trees so we can build these towers of profit is a death to the earth, is a death to the people. It displaces the people. It destroys our oxygen. It destroys our life. It destroys our water. It destroys our air. We must stop it. Stop the building. Stop the destruction. Stop the displacement. Stop it. Come back to the earth. Come back to the earth. Come back to the earth. Drum the earth. Get the earth. Bring the healing. Wendeya-ho, Wendeya-ho, Wendeya, Wendeya, ho, 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 hey-a-ho, hey-a-ho, ya. Hey-a-ho, hey-a-ho, ya. Hey-a-ho, hey-a-ho, ya. Have a wonderful march, everyone. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless Mother Earth.
All right, are y'all excited? Are y'all ready? Yeah. When we win, when we vote. We win. 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 All right, so moving right along, we're going to have Brianna Stark, who is the Vice President of the North Carolina Political Science Society.
Aggie Pride. Aggie Pride. All right, thank you so much. Like Tyler said, my name is Brianna Stark, and I am a senior political science student from the illustrious North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. And I'm here to speak on behalf of my school. I can tell you that we Aggies are a lot of things, but blind is not one of them, because we know what oppression looks like. I can tell you that we Aggies are a lot of things, but ignorant is not one of them, because we know what oppression feels like. I can tell you that we Aggies are a lot of things, but silent is not one of them, because we know what liberation sounds like. Because to be an Aggie is to be a fighter of injustice. To fight injustice, you need to go out and vote. It is our constitutional right, no matter how much they try to take it away from us, no matter how much they try to suppress us, no matter how much they try to keep us away from the polls, we need to vote. Because there is power in our vote. There is power in the black vote. There is power in the Latinx vote. There is power in the LGBTQ+ vote. There is power in the poor vote. We are powerful when we are united, and we are powerful when we stand together. Go out, learn what's on your ballot, talk to your candidates, organize your community, strategize, collect your neighbors, your friends, your families, and go out to the polls. Because when we vote, we win. Thank you so much. Aggie Pride.
All right, so we're going to hear now from Professor Nichols, Jean Nichols, followed by Leslie Boyd, and then we're going to get ready to march. All right.
Hello, everyone. It's great to see you. My name's Jean Nichols. I'm from the University of North Carolina. Though I am asked to say that I do not speak for the University of North Carolina, I am wearing this hat, and no one told me I couldn't. So it is a great honor to be part of this march once again and again and again as we move forward in a fight for our own decency. I just want to say two little things, which are actually two huge things, which is to remind us that we are in a struggle against a legislature that is engaged, first of all, in a war on people of color. You know the particulars of much of that war. You know the repeal of the Racial Justice Act. You know the decision by our legislature to use surgical precision to try and stop people of color from exercising their right to vote. You know we have the most gerrymandered racially districts, both from the congressional level and at the state level, in the history of the United States. You know that when our legislature goes into their special caucus, they decide to make it harder rather than easier to get police camera footage, unlike the rest of the country in response to the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, when our legislature goes into their caucus, they decide to lionize Confederate statues. Here's what you might not be thinking about, which most of you know, I know, but when the Republican Party for the last decade goes into each of those two caucuses with their large majorities to set the rules for North Carolina, there are no people of color in that room. The House and the Senate of North Carolina, the Republican caucuses, are all white, despite the fact that a third of North Carolinians are people of color, and despite the fact that the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments have been on the record for over 150 years. So we struggle in the face of a white people's party. A white people's party which rejects our history, rejects our constitutional premise, rejects our religious creeds, and rejects our common humanity. Secondly, we are faced in North Carolina with the stoutest war against poor people that has been waged in the United States for the last half century. You know the particulars there as well. 500,000 people kicked off the rolls of Medicaid, though it cost us billions of dollars. It cost us tens of thousands of jobs. It cost us hospitals, and most of all, it cost over 1,000 people, your sisters and brothers in North Carolina, to die every year as a result of that decision. We have ushered in the largest cut to an unemployment compensation program in American history. We are the only state to ever abolish its earned income tax credit. We have eliminated the entire budget of legal services. We have cut hundreds of thousands of poor kids off of food stamps, though it saves us not a penny. All the money is paid for by the federal government. So this is what we have in North Carolina. North Carolina is part of the United States, which has become the richest, the poorest, and the most unequal nation in the world. The United States, which Professor Piketty explained to us last year, has the greatest income inequality of any nation, any place on the face of the earth, any time in human history. Number one forever. Our legislative leaders go into their private caucus, all-white private caucus, and decide to make these two dramatic denials of equality worse every year. So we have a fight for what we believe in. We have a fight for what we say we are attested to. We have a fight for liberty and justice for all. But most of all, we have a fight for the question of whether we're going to be a decent people, and that fight can only be won on these streets. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, North Carolina. How are ya? Let's start this off right. Forward together.
Not one step back.
Forward together.
Not one step back.
I want to talk to you for a minute about health care because, as Professor Nichols just said, 500,000 people in North Carolina are without access to health care and life-saving care because of our legislature's thoughtlessness, selfishness, misguidedness, immorality. 3 of them will die today. 3 more will die tomorrow. I know something about this because my son died 11 and a half years ago because a birth defect was a pre-existing condition. And he was denied the insurance he needed, then denied the care he needed. They knew he would die and they let it happen. Since he died, 500,000 Americans have died of the same cause. When is it enough? Have we had enough? Are we done with this? Everybody deserves health care. Every human being. When I tell Republicans what happened to my son, their first question is, was he working? And my question to them is, when did we legislate the death penalty for unemployment? Haven't we done enough to make people poor? Do we have to kill them too? I can't get my son back, but I'm going to fight for your children. I'm going to fight for you. Everybody deserves health care. Everybody's got a right to live. Forward together.
Not one step back.
Forward together.
Not one step back.
So we know that when we vote, we know that when we vote, we will win a living wage. When we vote, we will win voting rights. When we win, when we vote, we know that education will win. So, if Miss Linda G. Davis, if you dropped your card, I have it, come see me. If you lost a bank card and your name is Linda Davis. There it is. Well, come and see me. So, with that being said, we're going to close out with Bradley Hunt, who is the Political Action Chair for the NAACP State Conference.
HKonJ, good morning. Good morning. Oh, come on, we can do better than that. Good morning. Good morning. When we vote, we win. When we vote, we win. This is the day that God has made. We might as well rejoice and be glad in it. Say so, say so. In my role as the political action chair for the North Carolina NAACP, I've traveled over this state talking to a number of young people about the importance of voting, particularly for African American young people, and how important it is to vote. And the reality is, many young people, many minority young people, just do not understand how important it is to vote, because they believe that they can't see a way out of their situation by voting. And I tell them and I encourage them by saying, you have to understand that there is a way out of your situation. Yes. There is a way out of poverty. Yes. There is a way out of the ghetto. Yes. Right. And that way is at the ballot. Say so, say so. We have to understand, young people, this election will happen only if we vote. We only will win if young people come to the polls. Yeah. We're mobilizing all over the state, and you have to understand, I need you to understand here today, that if we're going to mobilize effectively, everyone that is young, everyone that is black, and everyone that is poor must go to the polls. Because when we vote, we win. In the words of Tupac Shakur, I remind our young people, even though you fed up, you gotta keep your head up. That's right. HKonJ, North Carolina, in November, in March, let's turn this mother out.
All right, and now we will hear from Reverend Dr. T. Anthony Spearman, State Conference President of the NAACP. Dr. Spearman.
Good morning, coalition partners. Good morning. Good morning, HKonJ. Good morning. Good morning, North Carolina NAACP. Good morning. I can't hear you. Good morning. I can't hear you. Good morning. When I say, what do you want? You say justice. What do you want? Justice. What do you want? Justice. When I say, when do you want it? You say now. When do you want it? Now. When do you want it? Now. When I say, how do you get it? You say vote. How do you get it? Vote. How do you get it? Vote. When we vote, we win. You look good out there. Why don't you give yourselves a round of applause? Now, it's a poor frog that won't praise itself sometimes. That didn't sound like a rousing round of applause. Give yourselves a round of applause. You're looking good out there. And it is my task to give you some instruction as we prepare to move from this place to Fayetteville Street. As we march from this place, we are going to be heading down Wilmington Street, which is to my right. We're going to proceed in this wise. Historically, we have the young people leading the march. The torch that you saw lit is going to be at the front of the march. And behind that torch, I want us to begin marching with the young people leading the line. The first line of young people are going to be carrying an umbrella. There will be 14 of them carrying umbrellas to represent the 14-point agenda. And there will be something else significant attached to the umbrellas at the second stage when I speak. Those 14 young people have been designated, and they will carry the umbrellas to the other end of the march. Now, I need us to be orderly and organized, and I need us to listen to the marshals and those who will be assisting the marshals. And I need us also, oftentimes what happens is we rush the line. We need to have you lining up as the marshals ask you to line up, and I believe that will be 10 abreast. There will need to be some space between the first line of 10 and the second line of 10. Please listen up so that you will not be marching upon one another. We have time to get to the other end to do what we need to do. So please, 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 let us march in an organized fashion. And we would like for those who are coalition partners to gather themselves together in their respective places and govern yourselves as you march through the line. We have the LGBTQ community who are moving forward and hoping to have 1,000 members. We want them to be all together as they march, and we want others of us to be together as we march. So please listen to those who will be giving and providing further instruction. And we need you to also allow those who are going to be speaking at the second stage, those who are going to be speaking at the second stage, along with the executive committee members of the North Carolina NAACP, and I would like to have all presidents of branches to get into the line immediately following the young people who are going to be leading us to the other end. I pray that these instructions are clear and concise, and I pray that we would govern ourselves as we have our peaceful march to Fayetteville Street. Is that all right? When I say, what do you want? You say justice. What do you want? Justice. What do you want? Justice. When I say, when do you want it? You say now. When do you want it? Now. When do you want it? Now. When I say, how do you get it? You say vote. How do you get it? Vote. How do you get it? Vote. When we vote, we win. When we vote, we win. When we vote, we win. And we must save our democracy. Let us prepare to march.
this fight. Welcome, welcome. One more year. We have got this going on, y'all. We're going to get started by hearing the words of Miss Rosanelle Eaton, a mother in our movement. While she may not be with us physically any longer, she is still here. Her spirit still lives with us. And there is no better way to get us started as we sit with this theme, when we vote, we win. Because y'all, what are we doing on March 3rd? Voting. What are we doing in November? Voting. And after those elections, are we gonna hold these folks accountable? Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. Let's play that video.
Three lead matriarchs. I'm a preacher, and I remember it was the matriarchs in the book of Exodus that helped to save the land save the people of the Hebrews. This Rosanelle Eaton, young age of 94, excuse me.
I've been a member of the NAACP for around 70 years. I've been in the movement for 75 years. And now I am just disgusted. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. It's a pleasure for me to see all these people standing here. In the year of 1934, I asked my mother to take me to the county courthouse. For I wanted to prepare myself to be able to help people vote and vote myself. So she and my brother carried me on the wagon, pulled our mule, to the county seat. As we approached their office, there were 3 white men seated. One of them looked at me and asked me, "What do you want, little girl?" I quickly told them the story. One of the men, looking at each other again, told me, "Stand up straight against that wall with your eyes looking directly toward me and repeat the preamble of the United States of America without missing a word." I did it with the Constitution.
I woke up this morning with my mind, come on y'all, stay on freedom.
Now we need to commemorate, we need to motivate, and we need to educate for the good of the people. We must strive and restore the voting rights, because you know that's the thing that really will stop us in our tracks if we don't watch out.
That's right.
The other night, when they announced something about some fraud, I said, why they keep lying? Because I got on the stand and stayed on the stand at the courts. And I explained to them that that was no fraud. We had a little conflict in the system once upon a time, about 25, 30 years ago, concerning a mixed up on names. But there was no fraud. They put all of this, as it has been told. But I want to tell you what I got up there in the hot seat and told time after time, is that they were doing that to set us back.
That's right.
And we should get interested. Everybody, go home. Tell the people, you're on the street. Don't just go to the store to get groceries.
Come on now.
Go there, and if you see somebody, tell them about the movement. Tell them about the people that's working for the movement. I didn't plan to march. I wore heels out on my shoes.
Come on, man.
But the Lord put me there to help. I talk to people all over the world. I talk when I go to shopping. I'll grocery shop every shopping. I go in places and ask, what are y'all doing? And they'll say, well, we are just talking. But then, what are you talking about? And get involved in that. You got to open up your mouth and be a committee of one. I can tell you that. And I have made many of speeches. Say, we the people.
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 Say, fed up.
Fed up.
Fired up.
Fired up.
Fed up.
Fed up.
Fired up.
Fired up.
Thank you so very much.
Come on, can we celebrate the life, the legacy, the love, and the labor of our mother, Rosanelle Eaton? North Carolina, make some noise! Ain't no party like a justice party, cause a justice party don't stop! Make some noise, HKonJ! At this time, we'll have another song by our band, Sister Yara Allen. Following that, we will hear from our state president, none other than the Reverend Dr. T. Anthony Spearman. HKonJ, make some noise.
trouble the water is because we can't sit and wait and pray and hope and look, but we have to put our hands and our feet to work. And so we're singing, we've got to trouble the water. Now here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna point the mic there, and we want you to sing that verse. How about that? Go ahead and clear your throat. Here we go. Do we want to hear them sing it? Come on. That's it. Who's gonna do it? Sound mighty nice, say it twice.
After such a rousing rendition of Wade in the Water, indulge me as I quote a few verses from the Holy Writ. Verse found in Micah 6th chapter and 8th verse that I will paraphrase. He has shown you, O movement, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Then, in Isaiah's 58th chapter, verses 6 and 7, and a portion of 8, is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen? To loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke. Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, clothe them, and not turn away from your own flesh. Then, movement, your light will break forth and your healing will quickly appear. When we abide by these words, we are doing justice, we are loving mercy, and we are walking humbly with our God. This is the day that the Lord has made. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to rejoice. Oh yes, I am. I'm going to rejoice and be glad in it. How many of you woke up with justice on your minds? How many of you woke up with peace on your minds? How many woke up with love on your minds? Hallelujah. Well, it's been a long, long week. February 5th, 2020 will undoubtedly set the stage for a more imperfect, oligarchic, and fascist union. Fasten your seatbelt, because we're in for the ride of our lives. When members of American legislatures engage in the sham and shame of acquittal without the benefit of testimony from witnesses, you are on a dangerous road. Martin Luther King Jr. would have called it the road to hell. America is on the road to hell. This is nothing new to Black America, for the system has always conducted kangaroo courts and fake trials to ensure the prevailing of racism. And if not in fact, certainly in spirit, we see the remnants of the creed of the 19th century Roger B. Taney Court still in effect and on the rise once again. That creed is that the black man has no rights, that the white man is bound to respect. But, and I'm so glad we have a but, the one right that we do have, that we dare not allow them to take away from us, is our right to vote. The ballot is your right. It's your shield and your buckler, given to you for your protection. Protection against corrupt and treacherous people. And the one truth that they are aware of is that when we vote, we win. Can you say that with me? When we vote, we win. But not only has it been a long week, a long month, a long year. If truth be told, the entire past decade has passed through us like a kidney stone. And my brothers and my sisters, we cannot afford the luxury of forgetting any portion of the pain and hardship that we've endured, yet we have to always remember that it was on our watch that for the first time in more than 100 years, we took a nap. And while we napped, some extremists gained control over the North Carolina General Assembly in November of 2010. Because we fell asleep and failed to get out the vote. And since then, my brothers and my sisters, we've been beat up from the feet up. We've been toe up from the floor up. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. So we dare not sleep through this upcoming election. We have to get out the vote. And I'm so glad that one of my biblical mentors ever reminds me that although we may be troubled on every side, we are not distressed. Though we are perplexed, we should never fall into despair. Though we are being persecuted, we are never forsaken. And though cast down, we can never be destroyed, because we carry about a greater one within us. And I have hope that we together can, will, and must do our due diligence to save our democracy. In less than 5 days, we will move full steam ahead to the polls for the early voting process. And it is incumbent upon us to remember that recent past that I just described and shake ourselves awake to a brighter future. To save our democracy, we must get out the vote. We've got a few things that we must fix. We've got to set the stage to remove some folk and demolish policies that work against us. If the legislative branch won't do it, and the judicial branch of government won't do it, we, the people, must do it. It's up to us to save our democracy. We, the people of the United States, represent the popular sovereignty, and we must rise up and save our democracy. The low point for me during the past decade was June 25th, 2013, when the Shelby versus Holder case gutted the pre-clearance clause of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, overturning the most important victory of the civil rights movement. It was a hard rain that fell in my heart that day. Only hours later, far-right extremists in the General Assembly filed a bill with dozens of measures designed to tamp down voter turnout among black, brown, young, or impoverished voters. Dozens of state legislatures across this country did the same thing. Our treasonous Supreme Court left us with less voter protections than we enjoyed on August 6, 1965, when President Johnson signed the Voter Rights Act, which many of us wrongly assumed was settled law. Winston-Salem's Board of Elections chair vowed that he would go all out to shut down polling places at Winston-Salem State University. The president of the Pasquotank County Republican Party vowed to stop students from voting at Elizabeth City State and across North Carolina. At Appalachian State, Watauga County's GOP-controlled Board of Elections condensed all of the voting precincts into one and placed it far away from the campus. One Buncombe County GOP official explained, "This law is going to kick the Democrats in the butt. If it hurts a bunch of college kids too lazy to get up off their bahonkas and get a photo voter ID, so be it. If it hurts a bunch of lazy blacks that want the government to give them everything, so be it. They don't want us to vote because they know that when we vote, we win. Reeling, I reminded myself that my daddy always told me, "Son, always look for the good that comes out of a matter." And indeed, there was a shining thread of hope packaged with Shelby versus Holder. That hope gleamed from Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's umbrella. In her timeless dissent, the notorious RBG writes that throwing out pre-clearance when it has worked and is continuing to work to stop discriminatory changes is like throwing away your umbrella in a rainstorm because you are not getting wet. And the North Carolina NAACP vowed never to go anywhere without RBG's umbrella. In spirit and in fact, Ruth Ginsburg was right. In a racialized nation like the one we're living in, the regional protections of the Voter Rights Act are still necessary. You never know when the Ku Klux Klan will rise again, like they are in Hillsborough and Pittsburgh. You always need to carry your umbrella. Not only does an umbrella shield from the rain, it will also protect you from the scorching rays of the sun. Ruth's umbrella protected us from being tsunamied by House Bill 589. Ruth's umbrella covered us with some of the most brilliant attorneys this side of heaven, and they maneuvered their way to win after win after win. And we are still fighting, and we're still winning, and we're going to continue to fight, and we're going to continue to win, so we cannot lay our ballots down now. We must get out the vote. We must get out the vote, for when we vote, we win. When we vote, we win. When we vote, we win. And we can save our democracy. Allow me to share with you a few of the victories that we have been celebrating, because you need to know how much we've been fighting. First of all, we had a recent win, and a very, very important and significant win that's going to save the lives of many of us. And that is the coal ash victory. Did you know that together in the spring, the people had this victory when Duke Energy was ordered to move its coal ash stored in unlined, leaking pits at 6 sites across the state? We breathed a sigh of relief, because this is going to afford opportunities to countless thousands and perhaps millions of poor folk whose water has been polluted by that coal ash. They're being made to spend billions of dollars to clean up 80 million tons of coal ash across the state of North Carolina, which is the largest cleanup of coal ash in this nation's history. And thanks to the North Carolina NAACP and some others, we are fighting, we are winning, and we've got to get to the polls to vote some of these sinister people out of office. I don't hear you, movement folk. I don't hear you. In 5 days, early voting starts. I don't know about anybody in this crowd, but Anthony Spearman is going to be marching these weary feet to the polls on the first day of early voting. But that's not all. And I'm going to get out of the way because we have an exciting lineup of folk to share with you this afternoon. But one of the other recent victories that was announced on the last day of 2019 is that when you go to the polls in the primary, you do not have to have a voter photo ID. I'm here to tell y'all that we've got a team of lawyers like you would not believe. And when they stood there in Winston-Salem on December 3rd and argued the discriminatory intent argument and the effects argument, I was beaming like a Chessy cat, proud as a polecat, to listen to the two teams, the Arnold and Porter, John Hewlin, and to our own Caitlin Swain McShorley, who stood solid and argued such that the judge came back with a 60-page rousing decision that indeed discriminatory intent was a part of the process of Senate Bill 824. And yesterday, I probably shouldn't say this, but yesterday I was excited as we held a candidate's reception that there was someone who's daring and courageous enough to vie for District Seat 53, which is presently occupied by David Lewis. If any of y'all are out there under the sound of my weak voice that can cast a vote in that election, you need to cast it in the best way you know how. And that should be, I won't say it. Listen, I'm gonna come back intermittently, but y'all look good out there. I said y'all look good out there. And I'm thankful that you have thought it not robbery to come and be here, a part of this valiant movement one more time. This is our 14th year together. We're growing together like a hand in a glove. And I'm here to tell you that as we continue moving in this movement, the half has not been told about the changes that can be wrought as long as we continue to move forward together and not take one step back. When we fight together, we win. When we vote together, we win. And we will save our democracy. God bless you, HKonJ. God bless you, Moral March on Raleigh. let us continue to press our way toward justice until, like Amos says, it rolls down like the waters. Let us continue to do what we are doing. God bless you. Heaven smile upon you.
When we vote, we win. At this time, to speak to us on the importance of voting rights, we'll have Dr. Paulette Dillard from Shaw University, Reverend Dr. Curtis H. Brown Jr., the North Carolina NAACP Religious Affairs Chair, Tomas Lopez, Democracy North Carolina, and Melissa Price Chrome, also with Democracy North Carolina. North Carolina, make some noise.
James Weldon Johnson penned the words to lift every voice and sing in 1900 as he worked on a speech he was to give in celebration of President Lincoln's birthday. I believe that there is no more important time than today to reclaim our voice and in some cases find our voice. As a university president, I am keenly aware that many individuals come of voting age concurrent with entering our institutions. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to teach them to find a voice, not only in the career, profession, calling that they pursue, but also in their responsibility as citizens of this nation. Let us be reminded that in North Carolina, in the 60s, a group of students from North Carolina A&T University ignited the civil rights movement with the lunch counter sit-ins. And that on April the 15th, 1960, a group of college students from across the nation gathered their collective voices to form the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee on the campus of Shaw University to address the injustices of segregation. We will commemorate the 60th anniversary of the founding of SNCC on April 3rd and 4th, 2020. We have to reignite the spirit of SNCC and the power of our collective voices for the concerns of this day. There are some significant and important dates on the horizon that I call your attention to, where if ever you were going to lift your voice, it is in the urgency of now. April 20th, 2020 is Census Day. It is important to ensure that every individual be counted. This once-a-decade count will determine congressional representation, inform the allocation of billions of federal dollars, and have significant community impact. The second date is November the 3rd, 2020, the presidential election. The outcome of this election will determine the course of our country for the next 4 years. If you want to see changes, then your voice must be heard at the ballot box. Much of what poor people and people of color are experiencing today is wholesale disenfranchisement. Our democracy depends upon and demands that every individual that calls the United States of America home, let your voice be heard in the matters that govern us. We the people of the United States of America. Thank you and God bless.
First, giving honor to God preeminently. Honor to our President, Dr. T. Anthony Spearman, to all of the members of the North Carolina NAACP, to our historic Thousands on Jones Street family and friends. We gather today at a time, in my opinion, that is one of the most critical times in the history of the United States of America. It is a time that demands our introspection, involvement, and interest in the critical issues of our time. We gather at a time that demands our introspection and remembrance of those who fought against the oppressive hand of domination and privilege, those who stood up so we could sit down at lunch counters and restaurants, those who experienced suffrage and suffering, who dared to cross over the Edmund Pettus Bridge for the right to vote and participate in this constitutional democracy of the United States of America. Not red states, not blue states, but the United States of America, with the belief that all persons are created equal in the sight of God and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. On this day, let us give thought and pray for that iconic and inspiring personality by the name of John Lewis. This is a time that demands our involvement in the fight to make way for justice to roll down as waters and righteousness as an ever-flowing stream. Finally, in a time that demands our interest in our posterity, prosperity, and personhood, and now with reference to the biblical numerology that gives us the number 5 that indicates grace, I declare today that God's grace is sufficient. I close with the words that I ask that you will repeat, 5 words. You say 2 of them, I will say 3 of them. I will say 3 enthusiastically, and I've asked you to say 2 resoundingly. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. Now I want you to know that how we will fight and win. When we fight,
we win.
When we fight,
we win.
When we vote,
we win.
When we vote,
we win.
And now let me close with 5 words that I feel that indicates that grace is sufficient. To God be the glory.
All right, good morning. I'm Tomas Lopez with Democracy North Carolina. We are a nonpartisan organization, not affiliated with a party or a candidate, but with the people. And I am here to share 3 things. When we vote, we win. Here are some things to know to help you vote starting this Thursday. First, know this website, ncvoter.org. There's going to be a lot of information out there about the elections. It's going to be confusing and some of it might not be true. You can go to ncvoter.org and you can get accurate information and it's up to date. Second, know this number, 888-OUR-VOTE. 888-OUR-VOTE. Lawyers are standing by to assist you if you have a problem. If you go to the polls and they say you need ID, you call 888-OUR-VOTE. You go to the polls and you have a problem, you call 888-OUR-VOTE. You go to ncvoter.org. Third, tell your friends. Early voting starts Thursday, and during early voting, you can also register to vote. So if you've moved, if you know somebody who's eligible but they're not registered, they can still go vote starting this Thursday. When we vote, we win. Good information, good protection will get us there. ncvoter.org, 888-OUR-VOTE. That's our way forward together. Thank you.
I'm Melissa Price Crom with the North Carolina Voters for Clean Elections. In the very first line of the Constitution, it reads, "We, the people." When those words were written, the idea that a country could be governed by everyday citizens seemed radical, nay, revolutionary. But for almost 250 years, millions of people have fought to see our country live up to the revolutionary idea and improve our democracy. Each generation, the torch gets passed, and it is up to us to preserve, protect, and improve our democracy. For far too long, the wealthy and powerful have manipulated our political system to serve their own interests. The president's impeachable actions using our military aid to pressure Ukraine to interfere in the 2020 elections for his personal benefit is just another symptom of our ailing democracy. Here in North Carolina, we know about abuses to power. We've seen the attacks on our fundamental rights to vote, unconstitutional gerrymandering for partisan gain, and the corrupting influence of big money. Time has come once again for us to fight for our democracy. We must reform our political system and put voters over big money and corruption. Pro-democracy reforms like H.R. 1, the For the People Act in Congress, a bold set of anti-corruption, election security, and pro-voter reforms. We need to take this fight to the North Carolina General Assembly. Here in North Carolina, we need reforms like automatic voter registration, ensuring that voters are informed about money flooding into our elections, securing our voting systems, and enacting fair maps and redistricting reforms. We are here to say enough is enough. We know the problem. We know how to strengthen our democracy. We know how to bring our country closer to the revolutionary vision of, by, and for the people. And we know when we vote, we win.
All right, y'all, let's hear it out for voting rights. Next, we are going to hear from our criminal justice speakers, Dennis Gaddy and Dante Sharp. When I say free, you say Dante Sharp. Free Dante Sharp. Free Dante Sharp. Free Dante Sharp. And Dante Sharp is freed. He is with us today. Let's hear it for Dennis Gaddy and Dante Sharp.
When we vote, we win. When we vote, we win. I'm for second chances. Dennis Gaddy is my name, the current criminal justice chair for the NAACP. And I just want to kind of bring you up to date on some things that are happening around second chances in the state. Yes. We've had a chance to partner with our Second Chance Alliance for the last year to create what we call Second Chance Alliance chapters across the state of North Carolina, beginning in New Hanover County, then going down to Pitt County, and then we went to Hyde, Washington, and Terrell County, and we just closed out here in Wake County last Saturday, where we're creating these alliance advocacy overlays so that we'll be able to enhance the electoral process for people with records across the state of North Carolina. We also filed a lawsuit that our organization, Community Success Initiative, is the lead plaintiff in, where we filed a lawsuit against the state of North Carolina as well as the State Board of Elections to improve the voting rights for people who have records in North Carolina. And then coming this May 6th, we plan to bring 3,000 people or more to the state of North Carolina, Jones Street, to talk about our Second Chance Lobby Day agenda. And then this April, hopefully when the legislature convenes, we've got House Bill 562 available for the Second Chance Act that is up to be voted on in the House. It's already passed the Senate 44-0, and we're looking for the House to pass it in April to enhance the expungement rights for people who have records, to get rid of their records. All right.
Good morning, everybody. I am Dante Sharp. And, thank you.
I did 25 years on a life sentence for something I didn't do. And I'm about overwhelmed right now because I didn't think I would be here ever. I used to watch it on TV. My mom used to come and stand up here for me, but she couldn't be here today. And I'm just thankful to God and all the people He put in my life. I'm even thankful that I went through it because it made me a man and showed me the truth of what things really is, you know. And now it got me a chance. I've been listening to what everybody had to say, you know, and I was hearing them talk about voting, and I never voted before because when I got locked up, I was just turning 18. So I'm gonna take my chance to step out there and make a vote to make a difference, to get them out of there, you know, because I seen the corruption and it's corrupt. But I want to let y'all know I thank y'all for standing for me and just looking out at all these different faces and different races and different, because I had lost real trust in humanity. But when I see everybody out here together like this, it really does my heart good. And I thank y'all, and I thank everybody put in my life, Forward Justice, Reverend Barber, the Duke Wrongful Conviction Clinic, all the people that prayed for me, all the people that marched for me, all the people that stand for me. I thank you, and have a good day.
Forward together. Dante is free. Come on, let's make some noise. At this time, we will have another cultural moment from Yara Allen and the band, after which we'll come back for peace and war.
Straight to peace and war on Gaza.
Matter of fact, let's go straight to peace and war. This time we'll have my brother Nganza Laughing House, Black Workers for Justice and UE 150, followed by Vicky Ryder, Salma Saeed, and the others will come to introduce themselves. Make some noise, North Carolina.
Peace, everyone. So we've come together as representatives of North Carolina, HKonJ's Peace and Anti-War Partners organizations. We represent diverse communities affected by the U.S. war machine, and we'll be speaking about the many ways that war affects us all. So after each speaker, we just ask you maintain 10 seconds of silence to consider what we said. And I want to start by saying that Dr. King told us that war is the enemy of poor people, and we see how true that is today. We're told that there's no money for health care, no money for affordable housing, no money for living wages or public schools or student loan forgiveness, no money to maintain our infrastructure. It makes the lives of working people are better. But anytime America needs another bomb, bullet, drone, or a gun, then it reaches down to its sock and pours out our tax dollars to pay for that. We know that one day America will have to account for the racism that's infused in these wars. These wars are fought overseas on black and brown land, destroying black and brown countries, killing black and brown families. And when they're forced to flee as victims, as refugees, America stops them at the border, locks them in detention cages, then sends them back to the mess that it helped create. We know that one day this government will have to account for its hypocrisy. The U.S. gets so upset about the possibility that Russia meddled in its elections, but the U.S. leads the world in meddling, in overthrowing elected governments, and assassinating their leaders. Right now, we got troops deployed in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, Kenya, Syria, Yemen, Libya, and now we've been threatening war on Iran. And who benefits from these wars? Not me, not you, but the weapons makers who watch their profits soar with every single bomb that gets dropped. So we can't count on the government to end these racist, classist wars. It's up to us. We won't allow our troops to die. We won't allow poor people overseas to die. We need a strong anti-war movement to end these capitalist-fueled, militaristic lies. So we say not here, not there, not war anywhere. So next I want to call up Sister Salma Saeed of the Movement to End Racism and Islamophobia, who works to dismantle racism, imperialism, colonialism, and capitalism. Come on up, sister.
It is not enough to want peace. We must be anti-military. We must be anti-war. The United States wars have created unprecedented refugee crises and local to global cycles of violence. The U.S. war on Iraq has led to the death of an estimated 2.4 million Iraqis. It has destroyed the country, created millions of refugees and internally displaced people, and has led to the loss of thousands of U.S. troops. The wars on Iraq and Libya, the drone warfare, have destabilized the entire region and created civil war-like conditions. It has produced a global refugee crisis. The rise of Islamophobia and the recently expanded Muslim ban are a result of the U.S. war on Muslims and Black and brown people globally. The U.S. meddling covert operations and training of brutal regimes in Central America and other parts of the world have created extreme violence, instability, and uprooting of people from their communities. U.S. militarism is felt here at home as well. It shows up in the militarization of the police, the use of military equipment from the war theater, and the military tactics that threaten Black, brown, and working people as occupied people. This must stop. End the wars, end militarism. Thank you. Next, I would like to call up Crystal Cavalier, who is a member of the Occaneechi Band of the Saponi Nation, a water protector and an activist for missing and murdered Indigenous women.
Meku, Witahe, Muti Ashuti. We must stop the U.S. wars of aggression because the military-industrial complex is the nation and world's greatest threat to Mother Earth. Not only is the military-industrial complex the largest single consumer of liquid fossil fuels in the world, but spends more than $8 billion tax dollars each year to fuel its trucks, planes, warships, making it one of the world's largest emitters of greenhouse gases, too. The military-industrial complex, both domestic and foreign, rank among the most polluted places in the world. And the U.S. bombs, and they destroy entire ecosystems, while chemicals left behind render land uninhabitable and dangerous. Military and war among nations are not just enemies of the poor, but they threaten to destroy the very life of our planet. For the sake of our national budget and for the sake of our environment, we demand, I demand, that the United States military clean up its act. Nekewa, Biwa. So I want to introduce Ruby Franco Cuivarez as the founder of Apoyo, a grassroots organization in Orange County advocating for the visibility and representation of undocumented immigrants.
We must stop U.S. wars of aggression because they're destroying the future of our loved ones, both at home and abroad. It is time to end the cycle of military retaliation. If we don't, North Carolina taxpayers will continue to pay more than $15 billion every year to support acts of violence as we did in 2018. Instead, we could have had 210,960 clean energy jobs, or 258,377 more elementary school teachers across our state. Imagine that. Those same dollars could have paid for 541,203 scholarships for university students in North Carolina for 4 years. More than half of our tax dollars are spent on the military. We must use our power to shift that spending into providing health care, affordable housing, quality public schools, a safe infrastructure, and creating a safer, more progressive world both here and abroad. End the wars, end militarism, not here, not there, no war anywhere. Next up, we have Ken Jones. He has been a draft resistor, plasterer, school teacher, professor, and grandfather. He lives in Asheville and is a member of Veterans for Peace. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to call for the demilitarization of our society and our culture, the demilitarization of our minds and our spirits. I'm going to sing you a song. It's a takeoff on Johnny Cash's song that I listened to recently, and his is called Satisfied Mind. Mine is called Militarized Mind. I grew up a good boy, and I followed the rules. I knew we were good guys, and the rest of them fools. But when I got older, what truth did I find? That I had been raised with a militarized mind. In schools and on TV, they've taught us to hate, that God loves us better, that our country is great. But now that I'm older, what truth do I find? That we have been raised with a militarized mind. We're told that we're free, but look at our jails, the poor in our streets, the war that prevails. Now it's time to wake up, leave the lies all behind, and free ourselves up from this militarized mind. Thank you.
All right, y'all, you ready for a little more music? We're gonna call up Yara and the band, and the next voice that you will hear after that is gonna be Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II. And once Reverend Barber is done speaking, we have some incredible speakers, and I know y'all are gonna stick around and you're gonna hear about LGBTQ justice and labor rights and healthcare and immigrant justice, women's rights. So let's hear for Yara Allen and the band.
I was born by the river in a little town north, and like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change don't come. Oh, yes, it will.
My. They tell me thousands have gathered, Sister Spearman, at the call of your husband and many others for the 14th annual Mall March on Raleigh, HKonJ People's Assembly, and you ought to let them hear you with a mighty shout. I want you to know, first of all, that no one person built this movement. We all built it together. Anyone that tries to suggest that they did it by themselves has another agenda, and it's not about the people. I also today want you to know that I'm not the last speaker. We need you to stay. But I have an assignment today as we make this movement go forward. Before I say anything, you see this man standing right here? Yes, sir. His name is Dante Sharp. Yes, sir. You already heard him speak. He spent 26 years in prison for a crime and a murder he did not commit. They have let him out, but that's not enough. We need a pardon for Dante Sharp. My brothers and sisters, I would have marched this morning. I'm nursing a knee because we are traveling across the country on the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for a moral revival, and I ain't as young as I used to be. But I hope all of you will join us on June 20th, 2020 in Washington, D.C. But I'm so thankful for my leader here, the president of the NAACP, N.T. Anthony Spearman, and the entire coalition that is staying together. My good friend, Renita Weems, shared something with me not too long ago, and y'all know how I am. I need a little diversity up here. I don't feel enough Latino and white and Native American and gay and straight. Y'all know I can't speak till I got some diversity around me. Come on. Come on now, come on. Y'all know how we do it. Y'all know how we do it. I need some color. I want all of God's family, because we don't do this by ourselves. All right. Can I say something? I need some color in here. Come on. Amen. This ain't affirmative action. This is an affirmative movement. I want you to know that every generation has its moment to fight for what's right. That's what Renita Weems said, and said there comes a time you got to stop crying that you got to fight. Every generation has its Red Sea and its Pharaoh. Every generation has its valley of dry bones. Every generation has its oppression and its Calvary. Every generation has its trail of tears and genocide that it has to fight. Every generation has its slavery that it has to fight. Every generation has its Seneca Falls, its Edmund Pettus Bridge, its Bloody Sunday, its Great Depression, its Jim Crow. Every generation has its sexual discrimination and disregard for humanity that it has to fight. Every generation has its Operation Wetback. Trump wasn't the first one to cage Latino brothers and sisters. Eisenhower did it in the 1950s. Every generation, in other words, every generation has something to face. And so, my brothers, in this season, it's just our time. Turn to your neighbor and say, it's just our time. Stop mourning and let's go to work. And yes, here in North Carolina, we're first in the nation. We've had to face regression. We've had to face in recent days. It's not new to America. It's just intensified now because of 24-hour news cycle. We've had to face a narcissistic, lying, draft dodging, abusing of power president in the Oval Office, but it's just our time to face it. We've had to face stacking federal court with judges who treat corporations like people and people like things. We've had to face, and we have to face, those that want to take away a woman's right over her body, and those who want to block voting rights. It's our time. We've had to face Mitch McConnell not only stacking the courts, but for more than 2,000 days, blocking fixing the Voting Rights Act. Strom Thurmond blocked the Civil Rights Act of 1957 for one day, and we called him a racist. McConnell has blocked fixing the Voting Rights Act for over 2,000 days. I wonder what we would call him. We have, and not only in North Carolina, but in this nation, we have some things to face, Brother Cunningham. 48% of people in North Carolina are poor and low wealth. 4.7 million people in this state. 49% of women, 2.5 million. 62% people of color, 2.3 million. But in 39% of white people, 2.4 million, the largest group, are poor and low wealth in North Carolina. We've got to face it. 1 million people without health care in North Carolina. We have to face it. And a legislature that has refused to expand health care, which means every year in North Carolina, nearly 6,000 people die, not because God called them home, but because a legislature will not pass Medicaid expansion. We got to face it. It's just our time. Over 1 million people in North Carolina own food stamps. We spent $122 billion in a war we should have never gotten in with Afghanistan from North Carolina. That same money could have created 97,000 jobs. We have to face it. We've got these real issues in our time. And so we have to face it. Nothing we can do about it but face it. We're not the first ones that had to do it, so we might as well face it. Touch your neighbor and say, face it. But we don't face it crying, we don't face it mourning, we don't face it with our backs bent, we face it fighting for what is right. I've been reading a lot about people who face things far worse than us. You do know folk have been through some stuff far worse than Trump. 400 years of slavery, Jackie. The Holocaust. 250 years of Jim Crow. We have faced things far worse than the extremism we see today. I was reading the other day Dr. Spearman, Frederick Douglass. In 1857, after the Dred Scott decision, David had come down The people told Frederick Douglass and white abolitionists like William Lloyd Garrison, y'all might as well go home. It's over now. The Dred Scott decision says a black man has no rights, a white man has to abide by. They can come and get us anywhere. And Frederick Douglass was asked to speak at a moment that people had seen a kind of failure to find guilty the system of slavery. And folk were kind of looking down and looking around and saying, what do we do now? And Frederick Douglass says, yes, this is a monstrous attempt to turn back justice. He said, but that's only one point of view. All right. Frederick Douglass said, Andrew, there's another point of view. He said, we, the abolitionists and the colored people, should meet this decision unlooked for and as monstrous as it appears with a cheerful spirit. In other words, sometimes when a nation shows you who she really is, or when certain people show you who they really are, you ought to get glad about it, because now you know what you got to fight. Huh? Frederick Douglass said, listen, this very attempt to blot out forever the hopes of an enslaved people may be one necessary link in the chain of events preparatory to the downfall of the complete and overthrow of the whole system. In other words, sometimes folk think they've won, but but what they've done is what my grandmama used to say: you give a horse enough rope to hang itself. Huh? Sometimes they haven't won. Their arrogance, they think they've won, but actually they've gone too far. And Frederick Douglass said this. He said, listen, the whole history of the anti-slavery movement is studied with proof that every measure devised and executed with the view to allow and diminish the anti-slavery agitation has only served to increase, intensify, and embolden that agitation. Do you hear what I'm saying? It was a bad time. But Frederick Douglass looked at it another way. The abolitionists looked at it another way, and they said the forces of regression must fear us. And so rather than just us going backwards, maybe we ought to actualize their fear and build a movement like they've never seen before. I wish I had a witness. He said it only serves, Derek, to increase and intensify and embolden our agitation. And so I came by here today for just a moment to say, in the face of everything we see, we've got some challenges, state and national. But we've already shown we can win. They spent $6 million of our tax dollars. They had a whole, as my other grandmama called, passel of lawyers. We had Moral Monday, HKonJ, some pro bono lawyers, and a few chicken sandwiches that we sold. And we won. We won. Yeah. And now that we have won to preserve the right to vote, God knows in heaven we better vote. That's right. We better vote. Now let me tell you something, and I'm going to my seat. In 2016, 6 million people in North Carolina were registered to vote, but only 4 million voted. 2 million voters that were already registered. Touch your neighbor and say, already. Didn't even have to register. Touch another neighbor and say, already. Now look at them and say, I hope it wasn't you. I hope it wasn't you. They were already registered, right? Now watch this. 2,176,000 voters didn't vote. Trump won by 173,000 votes. There is a place at which what we see now is not Trump's fault, but it'll be our fault if we don't actualize our power. In 2014, there were 6 million voters registered, Dr. Spearman. 2 million people voted for the U.S. Senate race. 3 million registered voters didn't vote. And Tom Tillis won by 40,000. 40,000. I said 40,000. That's only 400 votes per county. There comes a time You got to stop saying how big Goliath is and realize how strong you are. And in 2016, 64% of registered black voters voted, but 26% didn't vote. Trump won by 173,000 votes. 553,000 African Americans who were registered to vote didn't vote. We got some power that's not yet being used. And 1 million white folk didn't vote. There comes a time that we must stop mourning and start mobilizing and go to work. This is the 150th year of the signing of the 15th Amendment. It's time for us to mobilize and go to work. This is the 55th year of the signing of the Voting Rights Act. It's time for us to mobilize and go to work. Frederick Douglass said, in the face of oppression, you must embolden and intensify your agitation. And so that's what I came by to say. I came by to say that if the extremists try to take and suppress our right to vote, they must fear our power. And if they fear our power, then let's actualize that fear. Y'all don't hear what I said. You didn't hear what I said. If they fear our power, then why don't we as white folk and black folk and brown folk and yellow folk and gay folk and straight folk and folk from the mountains and folk from the sand hills, why don't we actualize their fear? It's time to intensify and embolden our agitation at the ballot box. Every time we get bothered by another attack on health care, it's time to intensify and embolden our agitation at the ballot box. If we don't like the impeachment cover-up, then use the fact that they didn't acquit him to intensify and embolden our agitation at the ballot box. If you don't like the senators that voted not to impeach, then intensify and embolden our agitation at the ballot box. If we are against warmongering and caging women and children, then it's time for us to embolden our agitation and intensify it at the ballot box. If we want to see education fully funded, stop cussing at Trump and go somewhere and mobilize people and intensify our agitation. If we want a living wage at $15 in a union, then it's time to intensify and embolden our agitation. If we want our gay brothers and sisters to be treated right, it's time to intensify and embolden our agitation. I wish I had a witness here. I wish I had a witness here. If you're tired of a president that's committed to lying and racism and economic policies that cater to the wealthy and hurt the poor and takes health care and blocks living wages, then don't cuss at a tree in your backyard. Embolden and intensify your agitation and get everybody to the ballot box. Good God from Zion. I feel like preaching. Huh? In 1867, when they did not find Johnson guilty after impeachment, the people then, the radical people who believed in justice, they emboldened and they intensified their agitation and sent his butt home for a vacation. If they could do it in 1868, surely, I said surely, with all of this social media and all of these cars we have, surely we can intensify and embolden our agitation. In 1919, there was a racist in the White House named Woodrow Wilson. In 1964, there was a George Wallace in the governorship. Every generation has had its challenge and has had to face, and we just have ours now. And if we could win the right to save the vote, God knows we ought to use it since we want it. If we want it, it's time to use it. And if Tom Tillis presided over the House in North Carolina and then used those laws to help get himself elected, and while he's been in office, he has even blocked 2 black women from getting an interview to the federal court, then we ought to at least remember what he did at the ballot box. I'm just saying. Huh? And so my message, Dr. Spearman, is simply this. In this, the 55th year of the anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, we need 55,000 North Carolinians that will leave this rally today and go back home and gather and organize everybody you know and tell them it's time to get your head up. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning if we fight for it. 1 can chase 1,000, but 2 can put 10,000 to flight. You need to go home and tell everybody and hook up with Dr. Spearman and everybody else and tell them it's time to intensify and embolden our agitation. Well, I'm going off the stage so that somebody else can come. But if I was at my home church, I'd tell you, slap somebody a high five and tell them I'm ready to fight. I'm tired of crying. I'm tired of mourning. And I'm going to fight with love. I'm going to fight with truth. I'm going to fight with marching. I'm going to fight at the ballot box. I ain't got to hurt nobody. I ain't got to cuss nobody. But everybody, it's time to vote. It's time to intensify and embolden your agitation. Turn to your other neighbor and say, neighbor, agitate. 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 Turn to your other neighbor and say, neighbor, since they fear us, let's make their fear real. Let's go to the ballots like never before. Do I have a mobilizer? Do I have a witness? Is there anybody in here that's gonna do what you got to do? Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, 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 it's fighting time. It's standing time. Yeah, 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 yeah. Raise your hand if you're going to organize. Now grab that hand and say, you better not be lying. Grab it. Say, you better not. Say, you better not be lying. Say, you better not be lying. Hold that hand, hold that hand. Some say, you better not be lying. And some say, I may not even like you sometime. Some say, I may not like you sometime. But this year, we're going to put all that aside because it's time. It's time. It's past time. Now you gotta have some money. You can't fight with no money. So we need everybody here to go to the NAACP website and give $10 or $20. Because we gotta have some moral money to fight these immoral situations. And so we need some what? Moral money to fight these immoral situations. So go to the NAACP, what is it? NAACP NC, is that right? Huh? Dollar bill. Dollar bill. NAACP. NAACP. NC. Tell your neighbor, say dollar bill. NAACP. NC. And this money gonna be used to keep building and building out the organization and building out the mobilization. And brothers and sisters, if we agitate right, some of our adversaries might even get clean. If we vote right, we might even change some of their minds. Don't ever underestimate what a moral movement can do, because even a Romney might change his mind.
Wait a minute. Hey, young man. Everybody, I want to introduce to you a young man who just came up. and his name, he's Minister Elijah Lee. You know, this is a developing story, this Moral March on Raleigh, right? He's 12 years old. And I asked him if he had something he wanted to say to this group of people.
Good afternoon. It is an honor to be before you all as we celebrate each other in our boldness and in our power. Today, I am here in representation of our young people. I am here to represent every young person a part of the Latinx community. I am here to represent every young people who is tired of being told they don't have the right to vote. I am here for every young person having to go home and know what to do when an officer pulls you over. Today I am here as a proud biracial minister, ready to say I have my right to vote. I am proud to have my right to vote, and no longer will I sit down to the oppression of our young people. Too many of our young people are being abused, too many of our young people are being killed, and too many of our young people are being broken and separated from their families. But we say no more. We say no more because we are ready to band behind our young people, and we will be their family. We will be their people, for this is our country. These are our streets. This is our life, and we are ready to take control of it, not as legislators, but as the people.
Our future is in their hands.
I believe the future is in good hands. Do you all agree? Come on, HKonJ, make some noise. Ain't no party like a justice party, because a justice party don't stop. At this time, we're going to hear from environmental justice and labor. HKonJ, make some noise.
Forward together. Forward together. I tell you, North Carolina, if anyone had any question if the movement is alive and well, just take a look around. Take a look around. Howard Zinn, the author and activist, once wrote that the most revolutionary act one can engage in is to tell the truth. In the year 2020, when we see manipulations and misdirections designed to confound the very concept of objective truth, this rings especially true. Misinformation and, in reality, flat-out lies have infiltrated our society at a time when we face some of the most urgent crises in modern history. In the face of this, we must have a rebirth of radical truth-telling. Somebody say, tell the truth. The truth is, our planet faces a climate crisis that threatens the rights of life, liberty, and security for millions across the world. Somebody say, tell the truth. The truth is, this crisis disproportionately harms poor communities and communities of color, and is made worse by the continued denial of its urgency by many political and corporate players, including our current presidential administration. Say, tell the truth. The truth is, directly connected to our climate crisis is our existing poverty crisis, where 140 million poor people in the United States alone are poor or in extreme risk of being poor. And if unaddressed, the climate crisis has the potential to push on top of this 120 million more people into extreme poverty. Somebody say, tell the truth. Tell the truth. And the truth is that directly connected to the crisis of climate and poverty is the crisis of our democracy. 2016 was the first presidential election in 50 years without the full protection of the Voting Rights Act. And right now we have less voting rights in 2020 than in 1965. but to recognize that the only way we get to bold action on climate and poverty is through fair elections, through using our vote and choosing candidates responsive to our interests. Somebody say, tell the truth. Tell the truth. And finally, the truth is that these realities, when the stakes are this high, they call each of us to act with a dangerous unselfishness, where we ask ourselves not what will happen if we choose to act, but what will become of us and our children if we do not. That is the question before us. And as we answer that question, let us take courage in the truth that when we stand up and stand together, systems change. When we stand up and stand together, movement changes. And when we stand up and stand together, this country, this world changes. And history tells us when this happens, we win. We win. We win.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Amy Adams. I'm the Senior Program Manager at Appalachian Voices. And while I'm not a particularly religious woman, I am here to tell you that I have come to believe in demons. The demon that I tried to fight seeps oil out of his pores, and he smells like methane. His breath is full of fire and ash. He poisons everything that he touches, but he does not strike haphazardly. He is savvy. He looks for the most vulnerable. Poor and rural communities are his favorite prey. He has endless financial resources thanks to very powerful and wealthy friends. Friends like Duke and Dominion, who by their very name serve to remind us of their control and sovereignty over our lives. How do we recognize him? He is the threat of fracking and offshore drilling. He is the threat of the Mountain Valley Pipeline. He is the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, which as we gather here today is coming closer to scraping across 200 miles of North Carolina from border to border. But this fossil fuel demon has never met us. We are the home of the Wilmington 10, the Greensboro 4. We are home of Warren County, the birthplace of the environmental justice movement. No, he has never met us. We triumphed against his coal ash, and we will triumph against his pipeline. We will stop him together, united with love for our neighbor, our state, and our world. We are North Carolina, and we are better together. Forward together.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Isa Deering, and I'm a senior at Early College High School at the illustrious North Carolina Central University. If you know, you know. And I am here today to talk about climate, race, and wealth. These natural disasters that we are seeing and experiencing, they impact us all. But I want to emphasize that these disasters disproportionately impact our lower income communities of color who cannot evacuate, who do not have savings to survive off of, and who do not receive aid in a timely fashion. Now, I also want to mention that in low-income communities of color, there tend to be higher air and pollution rates. This poisoning of our community is making people sick, and when healthcare treatment is inaccessible, getting treatment for just living at home is impossible. Low-income communities are forced to accommodate the waste of our society without the benefit of the resources. Why is it that I live 20 minutes away from a decent grocery store, yet 2 minutes from a landfill? Now, I know that there is produce that is transported from local farms every Saturday at the Durham Farmers Market. But when tomatoes cost 2 to 3 times more, I am forced to go to more affordable options. I want to emphasize that it's not that low-income communities do not want to participate in sustainability. It's that sustainability efforts are simply out of our reach. This impacts the ability for marginalized communities to be a part of the climate justice movement. Young people, people of color, people from low-income communities, and frontline communities. These groups oftentimes do not have disposable income or free time to engage in movements like these. And we need to ensure that we actively include people who are unequally impacted by climate change by putting them at the forefront of the conversation, or at the very least, give them a seat at the table. We need to host conversations at times and locations that are convenient for us to get to. And we need to realize that there are varying levels of knowledge within the climate change movement, and that we need to value a lived experience. Right. So this will be my first time ever voting. And I plan to use my voice as a person from a marginalized community to influence the way I vote. And I hope you guys do the same. When we vote, we win.
Hello, HKonJ. My name is Keith Bullard, and I'm with NC Raise Up for 15 and Union Rights. I'm also here representing the NAACP Labor Committee. The Reverend Nelson Johnson of the Beloved Community Center once told me that how you treat your workers is how you treat their community. So when you mistreat workers, you are abusing their entire community. When you pay workers low wages, you are sentencing an entire community to poverty. When workers are subjected to work in unsafe, hazardous working conditions, you are endangering the health and safety of an entire community. HKonJ, there's a song that we sing in a Poor People's Campaign, and it says, somebody is hurt in our community and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. We know that this is a very important election year, but our work must not and will not start and stop with this election. We need power the day before the election. We need power on November 3rd, and we need sustained power that will last beyond any election season. So how do we build this power? We build it by organizing, by talking to our co-workers, by talking to our neighbors, and coming together across racial lines to build power. We know that we need to continue to strengthen unions, strengthen worker organizations, and we need to strengthen workers' assemblies and lifting up voices, workers' collective voices. We must hold these elected officials accountable and demand that they do more. Are y'all with me, HKonJ? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. All right, this is...
When I say fight for, you say 15. Fight for. 15. Fight for. 15. Fight for. 15. My name is Sierra Brown. I'm a leader in NC Raise Up and the Fight for 15. I work at McDonald's in Durham, and I make $9.50 an hour. That's poverty wage. I started working in fast food when I was 14. So I've been in this industry for half of my life. I've worked for billion-dollar companies, Burger King, Subway, Food Lion, McDonald's. But all these jobs have some things in common. They pay poverty wage, no health care, no paid sick time, no voice on the job, no chance to join together with other workers and a union. I joined this fight 3 years ago because I realized the only way we'll create change is when workers come together and demand it. This movement gives me hope, but we still have a lot of work to do. We need a $15 minimum wage for all North Carolina workers. And this has to include tip workers, farm workers, and domestic workers. These workers have been excluded from minimum wage and basic protections just because of racist laws. When I say that we are fighting for all workers to get 15, I mean all workers to get 15. That's right. We need to get rid of our state's preemption laws. We need laws that can't raise the minimum wage. That's right. My city, Durham, can't pass a $15 minimum wage, even though we have the political will to do it. This has to change. And most of all, we need to make it easier for workers to join together in unions. Whether you are black, white, brown, no matter where you work, you have the right to form a union. We need to organize. We need to build our numbers. We need strong leaders. We can all be strong leaders. It's not enough for me to tell you. We need enough. It's not enough to name the problem. We need to organize. We need to organize. We need to organize. Thank you for standing with me and other workers like me. Thank you for joining our fight for dignity, our fight for respect, and our fight for 15 in the union. When I say fight for, you say 15. Fight for. 15. Fight for. 15. Fight for. 15. Forward together, now one step back.
How everybody doing today? All right, let me go ahead and get through this. I'm Dominic Harris. I've been awarded with the privilege of being president of the Charlotte City's Workers Union chapter of UE Local Public Sector Workers, UE Local 115. For the past 5 years, I worked with water and sewer and for the citizens of Charlotte, North Carolina. For some reason, several thousand members from Charlotte to Greensboro have chosen a 32-year-old dreadhead to come say, how y'all doing? Our organization organizes state and city workers all across the state and are currently active in 16 counties and within 8 city workforces. The people of our union have launched a Municipal Workers Build the Right campaign to set standards for city workers across the state for safety, family support and wages, affordable health care, and better working conditions. We appreciate the HKonJ Mass Moral Movement for always keeping workers front and center of your program. Now, I don't know how many of you have the right to collectively bargain with your employer. I'm letting you know that the great state of North Carolina made sure that we, the working class people, ain't have to worry about participating in decisions that directly affect us. Our employers think that they know what's best for us. They think that we should accept every policy they pass. They think we should be thankful for the pay increases they feel is fair. Our bosses want us to be happy about every insurance plan they put in front of us. Well, UE 150 feels a lot different than our mighty leaders do. We have full faith that as grown-ass men and women, we know what is best for us, and we know how every decision made in the room without us is a decision that's made against us. We need the right to collectively bargain, and we need Medicare for all because health care is a human right.
All right, y'all, are you with us? Yeah. We have 2 more sections of speakers, and I know that you are here. If you're in the back, move on up. Let's show some love to health care. Yes, come on up, health care. And LGBTQ justice.
In the book of Genesis, a man named Joseph told Pharaoh that there'd be 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of drought that would consume the land. We in the great state of North Carolina know what a 7-year drought of justice looks like. It's been 7 years of a drought of justice in North Carolina. 7 years we've been fighting for voting rights and fighting for equal education and fighting for higher education and teacher pay and fighting for an inclusion of all people in our state. It's been 7 years of drought. We've been coming here talking for 7 years about expanding Medicaid now. It's been 7 years since we demanded that Phil Berger expand Medicaid, and his people have been holding it up. It's time for the 7-year Phil Berger drought of justice to end. Say it with me, expand Medicaid now. Expand Medicaid now. Every year, this consumes the land. Each year, 1,000 people die because we haven't expanded Medicaid. That means some 7,000 North Carolinians have died because of a politically partisan decision. Do you believe that Phil Berger should have the right to decide what happens to people's lives? No. Say expand Medicaid now. Expand Medicaid now. We're now in a state where we need to move not just toward Medicaid, but Medicare for all. All the white coats say it with me, Medicare for all. Medicare for all. It's time to end the Phil Berger drought. It's time to Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Say it with me. Expand Medicaid now.
Expand Medicaid now.
Medicare for all.
Medicare for all.
Expand Medicaid now.
Expand Medicaid now.
Medicare for all.
Medicare for all.
Forward together.
Now one step back, brother.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all staying warm. My name is Tamar, and I'm a current first-year medical student. I'm here because, like many of us, my passion for fair and just healthcare began with a story. The story is of a woman living outside. She has serious life-threatening conditions and a chronic pain condition that makes it hard for her to get places. She's overwhelmed. When she finally goes to get care, they see the heavy bags of belongings that she takes with her, and they turn her away. She can't seek out physical therapy or preventative care. She can't go to see a specialist for her serious condition. She can't access the services that her life depends on because she doesn't have insurance. I'm here in front of you today to ask this question. How is it that in one of the richest countries in the world, a single adult living with no income, living outside, does not qualify for Medicaid? How could her life be different if she did have Medicaid? How would it look like if 1,000 North Carolinians didn't die each year in the Medicaid gap? How would our entire state look like if 500,000 underinsured people were able to access Medicaid? How would their improved health allow them to contribute their skills and gifts to our communities? The great Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Yes. When our neighbors are denied the health care they so desperately need, our entire community pays, not just financially, but morally. Healthcare is a human right, and this state will not see justice until Medicaid is expanded, until all people can be healthy and free.
My name is Perry Morgan, and I'm proud to stand here among the health professionals who are here today to advocate for access to health care for everyone and expanded Medicaid in North Carolina. Day by day, we help people care for their health as best we can, but we understand that it actually takes more than health care to make people healthy. That's why we're here today, because we realize that our fight is your fight. We stand with you because we know that people can't be healthy without a clean environment and safe food and water. We stand with you because we know that people can't be healthy without a stable and safe housing. We stand with you because we know, like the teachers in North Carolina who made Medicaid expansion one of their central demands, that education and health are inextricably interconnected. We stand with you because the right to decide to have a child is essential to a woman's health. We stand with you because living wages and economic justice build healthy minds and bodies. So rest assured, as the fight unfolds, that the health professionals who stand here with you today will stand with you until the day that your health care does not depend on your color or your paycheck or your gender identity or who you love or your pre-existing conditions or the place of your birth or the place you live now. As we march today, we chanted about health care. Everybody in, nobody out. Before we go, Tamara and I ask you to chant that with us. Let's chant it so loud that they hear us at the legislature, and that Charlie and Gary and Susan, wherever you are looking at us, hear it also. Everybody in!
Nobody out!
Everybody in!
Nobody out!
Everybody in!
Nobody out!
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bishop Tanya Rawls, and I am inaugural chair of the LGBTQ Committee of the Executive Board of the North Carolina NAACP. I am here with our 1,000-strong coalition of LGBTQ people and allies. We have made history today with the largest coalition ever of LGBTQ people and allies at the historic Thousands on Jones Street Moral March in Raleigh. We have experienced over these years LGBTQ people in particular lifted up as wedge issues in political cycles. We experienced it with Amendment 1 when families like the 21-year relationship my wife Gwen and I have were not recognized in civil situations. We experienced it also when we saw trans families being denied and individuals the right to use the restroom that aligned with their identity. And after the election cycle was over, we heard nothing else. So what we are saying this year in this presidential election, that we are not allowing anyone and anything to separate us. No wedge will work because we will vote together, and we want to thank each one of you. We're going to now hear from some voices that are LGBTQ.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ezra Fairley Collins, and I'm the Intersectionality Program Manager at the Freedom Center for Social Justice. I have the honor of talking to you about the importance of intersectionality. The importance of intersectionality is that no one of us holds one simple identity. We come together as complex, beautiful human beings that are moving forward as we move this movement together. So what I have to say is that it's time for us to think about the all and what the all means as we move forward together, not one step back.
Good afternoon. My name is Kendra Johnson, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I stand here today as the Executive Director of Equality North Carolina. We're the oldest statewide organization working for the lived equality of LGBTQ people. For 40 years, we've been working to ensure that people like me can live our lives free of discrimination in the workplace, housing, education, healthcare, and the cities and towns that they inhabit. Our work never ceases. I stand here steps away from where our legislators voted to prevent cities and towns from protecting our fundamental rights to fair treatment in the places that we work, live, and raise our families. And yes, HB 142 is still the law of the land here in North Carolina. And right now in Washington, D.C., the Supreme Court is examining whether we have the right to be fired because of who we are or who we love. Yeah. Let that sink in. The Supreme Court will decide whether we can be fired for things that have nothing to do with our job performance or our work ethic. I was asked to talk about the policies we need, but I can't. We need representation. We need to elect officials that believe in the intrinsic dignity and worth of every person, whether they're LGBTQ, black or brown, undocumented, regardless of gender, whether we're poor, able-bodied, whether we're incarcerated. We need representation that believes in common sense values and fairness and justice and liberty for all. We need to work to get everyone elected. I need everybody to roll up their sleeves and get our people to the polls so that we can take back the NCGA, we can take back our Congress, and we can take back our presidency. When we vote, we win. When we vote, we win.
Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Cedric A. Harman, Executive Director of Many Voices, a Black church movement for gay and transgender justice. As we gather here today, I am sure many among us are familiar with the television show, This Is Us. The show follows the lives, loves, and losses experienced by its main characters in a family. I join you here today because this is us. One may assume that LGBTQ concerns diverge from their own. No, that's not true, because this is us. Caring for our families in all of their beautiful formations, healthcare access for every person with a culturally competent physician, employment without fear of firing because of sexual orientation, gender, gender identity, and gender expression, love in our lives, and respectful mutual relationships. This is for all of us. Safety from violence and bullying are issues of concern to all of us. Quality education and safe environment and sane immigration policy are concerns for all of us. And yes, the freedom to celebrate, observe, and engage in our faith and spirituality where our authenticity is honored is a concern for all of us. Yes, there are particularities and disparities and disproportionate impacts upon LGBTQ people and our families. And we know that universal concerns will require universal solutions. That means that our North Carolina General Assembly must be concerned about all of us because this is us. When we vote, when we vote, when we vote, we win.
Good afternoon, everyone. Trans rights are human rights. Y'all didn't hear me. Trans rights are human. But sadly, the daily reality is that so many of us are being denied. We're being denied and we're experiencing job discrimination, unemployment, and high poverty rates. I'm not going to get into everything I got written here, but I want you to know that trans people like myself are frequently evicted from our homes, denied housing, denied access to adequate health care, denied access to restaurants, denied access to bathroom breaks, denied access to good paying jobs, denied access. Yes. But we have human rights. And so today we need to get the vote out there that it's time to raise our voice. It's time to get out and vote. It's time to make a difference. For when we fight, we win. For when we fight, we win. For when we fight, we win. God bless you all.
All right, y'all, let's have all the rest of our speakers come on up behind me. Now we're going to hear from women's rights, immigrant justice, and education. We got 4 more speakers. They're going to take us out strong. Let's hear it for them, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
What? My sisters and brothers, Trumpism is not new. It is not new. It began in the 1619s. Where are the American patriots who have been through this 400 years old movement based on lies and hate? Who would join black freedom fighters who took up the twin weapon of nonviolence, voting in the 1960s to set the stage for Obama's 8 years in the White House? I believe our brown and white sisters have learned much from the daily doses of sexism and racism and from the Trumpism's White House. In 1964, that year, black and brown and white sisters took off. So I only have one point to make. When black people vote, it's in our DNA to vote against creepy racists. When we've been dealing with Trumpism our whole lives, what we need is some hope. When I see my brown and white sisters step up challenging racism, standing beside me, I have full hope. When black people vote, we win. When our sisters vote, we win. When the ERA is ratified in North Carolina, all people win. When the League of Women Voters fight for free and fair election, all win. So let's join hands. Let us fight back. When we fight together, we win. When we vote together, we win. When you strike a woman, you strike a world.
All right.
Good afternoon. This year marks the 100-year anniversary of the 19th Amendment. Although it took 45 more years and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 for all women of color to be able to vote. While this movement was pioneered and credited to white women, women like Ida B. Wells, Sojourner Truth, and Martha Stewart played a pivotal role in this movement. While we all agree the 19th Amendment was a vital step, that's all that it was, the vital first step. It was a first step in an incomplete journey without equality, without equal voting rights, and without the black women and brown women to actually push the movement. Black women and brown women were forced to take their journeys of their own for equal rights. While we no longer are going to be the background and the voices of any movement, we are no longer going to embrace policies and that are inclusive of our needs. We are going to challenge those policies by asking for challenging health care discrimination. We are fighting against economic disparities, and we will topple racist judicial system that was designated to keep people of color locked up. That's right. Because this year is 2020, and this is the year of rage. This year is the rage of race, gender, and equity. Thank you.
All right.
Buenas tardes. So, por años, desde que se empezó este país, nuestra gente no le han dado el derecho que merecen. Eso lo cambiamos hoy. Since the beginning of this nation, our people have not been given the place they deserve. That changes today. Because the message is simple. They are afraid of our vote.
That's right.
They are afraid of our unity.
That's right.
And when we vote, hoy marchamos, mañana votamos, today we march, tomorrow we vote. Thank you, everybody.
Good afternoon. My name is Kristen Beller. I'm the president of Waken CAE, the local affiliate of the North Carolina Association of Educators. I started teaching 16 years ago, and I have to tell y'all, I love our public schools. My friend here, Tamika Walker-Kelly, a music teacher from Fayetteville, she has this thing that she says all the time. Actually, you say, what is it that you say all the time?
I love our union, and I love our students, and I love our schools.
And the reason why we love our schools so deeply is because we are deeply in love with our people. And that's the kind of love that North Carolina deserves. That's the kind of love that our students deserve. That's the kind of love that all of us deserve. Now, I know Senator Berger and all the other privatizers down there at the General Assembly, they're going to work real hard this year. They're going to work real hard to try to convince all of us, people from all over the state, that under their leadership, they have shown public schools the love. Y'all, we've heard it already this year with the lies told about educator pay. In fact, we have all lived through a decade of lies told solely for the purpose of dividing us from each other. And I'm tired of being lied to, and I'm tired of being lied about. Are y'all tired of the lies? Yes. So let's see if this sounds like love to you. Our support staff still don't make anywhere near a living wage or the $15 an hour minimum wage that all our state employees got. Did that sound like love to you? No! Our students still don't have teacher assistants, school nurses, counselors, psychologists, social workers to meet their needs. Does that sound like love to you? No! The privatizers down on Jones Street have ignored the fact that there are buildings in every single district in this state that are in desperate need of repair and renovation. These are the places where our children learn. Does that sound like love to you? No! The raises that Berger keeps bragging about would have given half of the teachers in North Carolina $0 in a raise. Does that sound like a love to you? No! The state continues to neglect our retired school personnel, folks who have dedicated their entire lives to our children by leaving them with a fixed income and no cost of living increase. Does that sound like love to you? No! The leadership on Jones Street has created laws that allow ICE to tear apart our students' families while breeding isolation and terror. They gave away our tax dollars to private schools and tax breaks to wealthy corporations, and then they had the foolishness to say that there's not enough money to fund education, not enough money to keep our hospitals open, not enough money to provide life-saving care to literally hundreds of thousands of our students' family members. And they're putting the needs of the wants of a few over the needs of many. And there's only two ways that we're gonna get the love that we deserve from that General Assembly. We have to organize enough people in North Carolina to take enough action together that is large enough that they can't ignore us, and we must vote them out.
That's right.
So I want to ask you, do you love each other deeply enough that you're willing to invest your time, your money, your skills to reclaim our state? Yeah. Are you willing and ready to knock on your neighbors' doors? Yeah. Are you willing and ready to make phone calls and listen to the stories of our folks around the state? Yeah. Are you willing to stand with unions to fight for better working conditions? Yeah. Are you willing to teach our children how to fight for themselves? Yeah. If that's you, and you love your public schools, and you love your educators, and you love our state the way I do, then let's not just gather here today to fight the good fight. Let's go out there together throughout 2020 and fight to win the schools our students and our educators deserve. Yeah!
HKonJ, you are beautiful. Thank God for you who have stayed to the end, and we pray that you will go back to your respective communities and do what we have been called to do for the past 14 years, and that is to take our 14-point agenda back and flesh it out in our communities. Because when we do that, they know that they have a force to reckon with. We will be sending out the date for you all for the legislative day that we will all gather together back on Jones Street to confront our legislators and to instruct them as the Constitution gives us the command to do. So we look forward to your going back to your communities, mobilized like never before, organized like never before. You don't have to agonize because we together can do this. Forward together. Not one step back. Forward together. Not one step back. Forward together. Not one step back. When we vote, we win. When we vote, we win. We've got to save our democracy, so let us get to the polling place on February 13th and beyond, and let us cast our votes and vote some folk out of office. When we vote, we win. God bless you. Heaven smile upon you. Safe travels on your journey home.
Thank you.